Well, this week may have only just started, but it has started in a spectacular way with a compromise of the SolarWinds Orion network monitoring application. So this has been quite a commonly used application as far as I have seen. So I've worked for a few different companies over the years and each of them has used some form of SolarWinds network monitoring software. Oh, and it's used quite heavily as well in governments, the US government, and I do believe the UK government as well. So yes, it's a compromise of the supplier's software. So SolarWinds put out a security advisory today. So we have just been made aware that our systems experienced a highly sophisticated manual supply chain attack on SolarWinds Orion platform software builds through those versions 2019-4 through to 2020-1. We've been advised this attack was likely conducted by an outside nation state, because of course it would. This is actually way beyond just the average single script kiddie hacker. This is, I would agree, nation state. And intended to be a narrow, extremely targeted and manually executed incident as opposed to a broad system-wide attack. So it emerged that the US government was hacked and cybercriminals have had since March been able to intercept email traffic inside departments including US Treasury and Commerce. It's possible that other SolarWinds customers may have been hacked. Globally, the company has more than 300,000 customers and in the US its technology is used by more than 400 of the US Fortune 500 companies. Yeah, this is a big compromise. And I noticed attacks on the network where I work. So apparently we've been caught up in it, but probably not to the same extent that, let's say, government agencies have been caught up in it. And there have been fingers pointed, and the fingers were pointed at the Russians. Although a lot of the initial work has been done by FireEye, who have themselves been caught out by this. But they didn't necessarily try and attribute the attack. The attribution has come from US government and Microsoft. December the 13th, 2020, by FireEye, we have discovered a global intrusion campaign. We are tracking the actors behind this campaign and they've allocated that UNC 2452 number. But yeah, as I said, that likely attributes to Russians, the APT group 29, also known as Cozy Bear. So FireEye discovered a supply chain attack, trojanizing SolarWinds Orion business software updates in order to distribute malware we will call Sunburst. Nice name, but of course every big piece of malware has to have a name. So the actors behind this campaign gained access to numerous public and private organizations around the world. They gained access to victims via trojanized updates to SolarWinds IT monitoring and management software. So it's an attack against the SolarWinds Orion servers. But it does spread laterally as well. Yeah, it began in the spring 2020 and is currently ongoing. So solarwinds.orion.core.businesslayer.dll is a SolarWinds digitally signed component of the Orion software framework that contains a backdoor that communicates via HTTP to third-party servers. Injected or distributed as a digitally signed update. So why wouldn't you trust a digitally signed update from a supplier? I mean, there is no need to distrust these things. As has been said, as a means to protect your systems, do your updates. Well, in this case, doing your updates would have compromised your system, so I don't know what to say really. I mean, more often or not, you are better off doing your updates. But I guess there's exceptions. So yeah, the trojanized update is a standard Windows installer patch file that includes compressed resources associated with the update, including trojanized SolarWinds, businesslayer.dll component. And once the update is installed, the malicious DLL will be loaded into the legitimate SolarWinds business layer host exe, or the 64-bit equivalent. So after a dormant period of up to 2 weeks, the malware will attempt to resolve a subdomain of avsvmcloud.com. So if you have the ability to check DNS logs of your company, check for that domain. That is where I have found it in the company that I work for. And we have found evidence of it from April through to the beginning of November. So the DNS response will return a CNAME record that points to a command and control or C2 domain. The C2 traffic to malicious domains is designed to mimic normal SolarWinds API communications. So there's more of a write-up on how this all works or what they have uncovered. Here's a list of some of these subdomains, and there's more random subdomains to that, but AppSync, API, EU West 1, AV, svmcloud.com, so made to look very like the Amazon AWS cloud. And there's mention here about how often it communicates. Now, we found differences in those sort of rates of communication. So it seems like if it was sort of more successful on the network, then the DNS lookups would be very quick. But if it's not doing as much or error conditions, then it's up to sort of around 9 hours between sort of communications. But I found it a lot longer, sort of to be 12 hours onwards. It uses steganography because, well, good bits of malware do use steganography, hiding data, or hiding data in plain sight in a picture, or other methods as well. The US Department of Homeland Security have issued an emergency directive and the required actions. So agencies that have the expertise take the following actions immediately. So forensically image the system, analyze stored network traffic for indicators of compromise, including those DNS domains. Oh, it's not just one, there's also some more listed in the FARI write-up. So affected agencies shall immediately disconnect or power down the SolarWinds Orion products through those affected versions. It's funny because SolarWinds themselves suggest that the updates, doing the product updates, will fix the problem. But obviously the governments want to be a bit more thorough. So agencies are prohibited from rejoining Windows host OS to the enterprise domain. Now to block all traffic and identify and remove all threat actor controlled accounts, identified persistent mechanisms. So it's pretty drastic. Shut the servers down, get them off the network, then rebuild them. Forensically image if you can, and then rebuild. Microsoft did a write-up as well, and they mentioned about how the attackers would move laterally. So once in the network, the intruder uses the administrative permissions acquired through the on-premise compromise to gain access to the organization's global administrator account. So yes, it's a bit of a nightmare situation, you could say, once global administrator rights have been obtained. In fact, that is actually the end goal. Once you have global admin, you own an entire Windows network. While updating the SolarWinds application, the embedded backdoor code loads before legitimate code executes. Organizations are misled into believing that no malicious activity has occurred and that the program or application dependent on the libraries is behaving as expected. Well, if it's been around since March 2020, it has fooled a lot of people. That is a long time for a compromise to have happened on such a major piece of software. They talk about getting mail read rights, so being able to access all emails from an affected company. And there's a list of indicators of compromise, and the main one being this, the AV SVM cloud, as well as a few different files. I wonder just how long it has been around, really, because Microsoft researchers have observed 2 files in October 2019 with code anomalies when a class was added to SolarWinds DLL. Note, however, that these two do not have active malicious code or methods, so it could have been a practice run back then. So that was quite a spectacular compromise of SolarWinds network monitoring. This has quite wide-ranging implications for government agencies, larger companies. I'm hoping for the company that I work at, well, we're certainly not Fortune 500, so I'm hoping that we've just slipped away, missed out on being the main targets of the attack. But I've got a lot more analysis work ahead of me this week to try and establish for sure. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.